"What's going on here?" she demanded, seeing her older boys on their hands and knees wiping the floor. "They made a mess at lunch," I explained. "They're cleaning it up." Jessica's face turned red. "How dare you? They're just children. You're being cruel to them." "Cruel?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Jessica, they were throwing food at Kevin. He was crying. This isn't okay behavior. You don't have children," she spat. "You don't understand anything." I looked at our parents, hoping they'd back me up. But they just sat there looking tired and defeated. I couldn't understand why they wouldn't stand up to Jessica, why they kept letting her take advantage of their kindness. Life went on like this for 3 more years, with me limiting my visits home to avoid the chaos. Then everything changed when I met James. He was nothing like anyone I'd dated before, smart, kind, and most importantly, he understood the importance of boundaries. We met at a coffee shop near my office. He'd accidentally taken my latte, and we ended up talking for hours. After 6 months of dating, we introduced each other to our families. His parents, Robert and Diana, were lovely people who raised their voices about as often as they burned dinner, which was never. The contrast between their peaceful home and my parents' chaos was striking. Christmas had always been a big deal in our family, and this year was supposed to be extra special since James and I were newly engaged. Mom went all out with the decorations. The tree was beautiful, presents were wrapped perfectly in matching paper, and the house smelled amazing with all her holiday baking. When James and I arrived early to help, the atmosphere was festive and warm. My cousins Mark and Sarah were already there with their kids, who were quietly playing board games in the corner. Several of our relatives had traveled from out of town, including Great Aunt Martha, who immediately pulled me into a tight hug. "Let me see that ring, dear," she said, admiring my engagement ring. "James is such a lovely young man. You two will be so happy together." Everything was picture perfect. Mom had outdone herself with the food, Dad was telling his favorite stories, and even the kids were well behaved, saying please, and thank you, when offered cookies. It felt like a scene from a Christmas movie. Then the front door burst open. "Merry Christmas," Jessica's voice rang out, but it was immediately drowned by the sound of her 3 boys storming into the house like a hurricane. Tommy, now 8, immediately ran straight into Great Uncle George, nearly knocking him over. Michael, 6, started chasing his cousins who had been quietly reading on the couch. 3-year-old Kevin was screaming at the top of his lungs for no apparent reason. "Boys will be boys," Jessica laughed while her husband David stared at his phone, completely checked out of the situation. Before anyone could stop them, Tommy and Michael discovered the presents under the tree. They didn't just look at them or shake them, they started ripping them open, all of them, even the ones that weren't for them. "Oh my goodness," Great Aunt Martha gasped as Tommy dove through a carefully wrapped package meant for my cousin's daughter. "I think I need to leave. This is too much excitement for me." She wasn't the only one. Within 20 minutes, half of our elderly relatives had made their excuses and left, unable to handle the chaos that my nephews were creating. The dinner that followed was even worse. My cousin's children sat quietly, using their napkins and waiting their turns to speak. In stark contrast, my nephews turned the dinner table into a battlefield. Tommy and Michael were throwing dinner rolls at each other across the table, while Kevin was smearing cranberry sauce in his hair. "Children, please," Mom pleaded weakly, but they ignored her completely. The breaking point came when Tommy, with a mischievous grin, deliberately picked up his can of soda and poured it all over Mom's special Christmas pie, the one she'd spent hours making that morning. "Tommy," several voices shouted at once, but Jessica just laughed. "He's just being playful," she said while David continued scrolling on his phone. I looked around the table at my relatives' faces, the shock, the disapproval, the discomfort. While my sister and her husband sat there acting like this was perfectly normal behavior. I couldn't take it anymore. The sight of my mother's ruined pie, the chaos, the complete lack of discipline, it was all too much. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. "I can't stay here," I announced, my voice shaking with anger.